So, welcome back to Keeping BZ, the show where Zach and I show a video game off as a way of hanging out with each other and talk about stuff in a podcast-like format. And funny enough, our last episode was on Kingdom Hearts, and now we're doing another game about you exploring a world that combines a bunch of different Disney properties. This is the Epic Mickey remake, Epic Mickey Rebrushed, that came out, just this week. This was made by Purple Lamp Studios. Purple Lamp had previously made the SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom remake, and then they did their own original SpongeBob game with the Cosmic Shake, and now they're doing another remake with Epic Mickey, the Wii exclusive game from 2010, which I think they're a pretty good fit for, because this is like a nice step up. It's more ambitious than prior projects they've done, but not to an enormous degree. But Epic Mickey is, of course, a game that has a lot of choice and consequence, and a lot of moving parts, so it's a little more complicated than what you would expect out of a SpongeBob game that has, some like minor side quests, but nothing where you can really change the events of like the story. Epic Mickey was always a game that fascinated both Zach and I from the moment it was announced, and especially when it got its article in Game Informer. When we saw this concept of this dark Mickey Mouse game centered around a world of forgotten characters, it immediately grabbed both of us. I assume that like the build-up was similar for you, Zach.
Yeah, I believe I also heard about this through a Game Informer magazine, and I was extremely caught off guard, but very curious about it. Of course, a lot of things they talked about in that initial article did not make it to the final product, like Mickey looking more evil as you did more evil actions. Disney thought that would ruin the Mickey Mouse brand, so he just gets a bit more inky, I think.
Which is funny because Warren Spector, the creative director, part of what made him sign on to the project is that Disney gave him more creative freedom, because he said in the interview with Disney that he felt like they had made Mickey Mouse stale over the years, and he wanted to try to bring back the more mischievous side of him that was featured in the older cartoons. He felt like what made Mickey Mouse's personality distinct was kind of given to Donald and Goofy, and that over time the character kind of just became an everyman who was less interesting. So Epic Mickey was a chance to not only kind of bring Mickey Mouse to a wider audience in a way that would make them notice him again as an interesting character, but also make a new franchise property for Disney. Epic Mickey had actually been in development long before Warren Spector had been part of the team. They had actually been developing it since the early 2000s as a way to try to bring Mickey Mouse back into the limelight in a way that he hadn't besides like reruns of cartoons on Disney Channel. I mean, House of Mouse and all of that existed, but they wanted like a new, interesting, edgier Mickey property to kind of bring the character back. And so this happened, and they brought on Warren Spector, who was the creative director behind Deus Ex and the Ultima games and all sorts of like immersive, darker, like adult Sims. But at the same exact time, Warren Spector had wrote his like final for his master's in college on classic cartoons. This was like a passion for him. So when he actually came to Disney hoping to pitch like a fantasy or sci-fi science fiction game to them, and they were not interested in his ideas at all. They just kind of eventually just went, "Hey, could you like make a Mickey Mouse game?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, like hell yeah, absolutely." So then this happened, and you get Epic Mickey, one of the strangest projects Disney's ever made, and also a game that I find unendingly fascinating for just what it is.
Yeah, I should say that while this is a darker Mickey Mouse game, I wouldn't say it's grim dark or anything. You can definitely tell by the aesthetics they were going for something a bit more dark, but I wouldn't say it goes too far in that direction, like a lot of other darker games try to go. Like, this is no Jack 2, for example, because he's not going to start saying damn.
Yeah, like they portray in the opening cutscene Mickey Mouse kind of messing around with Yen Sid's stuff in the same way that he did in the Sorcerer's Apprentice short from Fantasia. But that's because that's what they were trying to do. They were trying to call back to like the mischievous side of Mickey that made him so lovable in the old cartoons. But at the same time, still keeping him relatively what you identify as Mickey Mouse. They weren't going to try to change him that much. So that's kind of, that's why, you know, Zach makes the point he does, because this game is still very much Mickey Mouse. Like, it does have a darker edge. It's about a world of forgotten characters that Mickey accidentally ruined, and he's trying to sort of redeem himself through it. But ultimately, it's still it's still like the characters that are Disney characters in this game act like the characters that you would expect them to be. There's nothing this isn't like Quack Pack or Lunatics Unleashed or other attempts at trying to give an edge to these characters. It's just an interesting concept wrapped around like this kind of darker world that it's putting them in. But what makes this game really interesting is because, you know, like the storytelling also is interesting on a meta level, because the game's literally about Mickey Mouse coming to a world of characters that have basically been forgotten by the real world, and him trying to rekindle things with Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, who Mickey Mouse basically took all of the popularity from. Like, you think they would do that through, like, an animated short, but instead they do it through a video game.
I do love these levels, but boy, do they get really aggravating to get through after a while.
Well, thankfully, Zach, in the remake of Epic Mickey, in the original, whenever you're trying to go between worlds, you would have to walk through one of these back and forth every single time. In the remake, if you walk up to one of the projectors after you've already been through it once, your buddy Gus will pop up in front of it and go, hey, do you want to skip this level and just go on to the next world and not have to worry about backtracking over and over and over again? And you can just say yes, and he'll just teleport you.
Which is a much-needed quality of life improvement.
And on top of that, they didn't just like add some nice quality of life stuff. They also gave Mickey new moves. You might be seeing him doing like a little dash there. He has like a dash that works as like a dodge. I like it both in terms of it. I've actually found it very useful for getting out of the way of enemies when they charge, and it's also useful for just like similar to like the roll that you can do in The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, just to like keep yourself moving fast. But at the same exact time, you do also have a dash now, like a what you would call like a quick run that you can do by like tapping the analog stick, which is also great. Like, it makes the pace of the game faster. I just keep forgetting to use it because I just keep dashing everywhere annoyingly. And the final new move Mickey has in the remake is actually a ground pound. You can ground pound enemies, and they also make it so there's certain elements both in the world and also in these projector levels where certain objects can only push you up high enough, like give you the highest jump, if you ground pound them instead of just jump on them. So they actually make it a necessary thing you have to use now. But as I was playing it, I kind of just forgot it wasn't part of the original game. I actually was impressed because I expected the new moves to be superfluous, but honestly, they function pretty well as adding something to the game that makes it a little better to play, on top of also fixing a lot of the camera issues the original also very much suffered from.
Yeah, it's been a very long time since I last played Epic Mickey. Honestly, I haven't played it since probably 2010 when I beat it, but young me had a really good time with this game, but there was a lot of flaws, and yeah, the camera is definitely one of them. Having to shake the Wiimote to do the spin attack got annoying, so thankfully in this one you can just hit square.
Yep.
I remember the platforming feeling a bit weird in the original, but it's been a long time, so I don't really remember how the controls were originally, but when I played the demo to this, I did feel like the platforming felt really good.
Yeah, it's weird. I need to go back and try the original again because it definitely feels like they changed how Mickey's jump both animates and how it feels. It's a little floatier in the remake, and when you do the double jump, Mickey actually like rolls up into a ball as he jumps higher. But like in the original, you can also use the paintbrush spin as like almost like a third. It's not necessarily like a third jump, like a triple jump. It's more just that it gives you a little more air to make a certain jumps by keeping you suspended. But I think the jump, at least from what I remember of the original, feels better here because the floatiness gives you a little more time to direct yourself. Also, you may notice Mickey's wearing like a little costume. He's got like a little construction hat on. The remake actually has, I forget whether the original, I don't think the original had costumes. I think that was primarily an Epic Mickey 2 thing. But one of the things they added for the remake was a bunch of costumes Mickey can unlock that were actually all costumes from the second game. So far, the only way I've seen that you unlock the costumes is by collecting all of the projector reels in the projector levels and giving them to the guy in the cinema on Main Street, and it will unlock, cartoons for you to watch, tons, obviously like MacGuffin items you need to collect to unlock the next objective, and then of course it unlocks costumes as well. So it's like you really want to grab those projector reels. So it actually is really, really useful to explore all the secrets in the projector levels.
Yeah, I haven't played much of Epic Mickey 2, but Brandon said he really likes it. So at one point I'd like to try that, and I believe that one is co-op. One person plays as Mickey and the other is Oswald.
Yes, which is, to some people, they considered that a flaw. I mean, I didn't really. I played the game solo, and Oswald's AI is basically what you would expect out of like a Lego game, where he follows you around, he helps you fight, and then when co-op segments come up, Oswald's AI automatically knows what to do to progress to the level. The only time where Oswald's AI became an issue with me, and I should say I played the PS3 version, is that when I got to like the end game after I had beaten the game and I was trying to explore the world to get other like end game collectibles and other stuff I missed, certain collectibles would require, I believe, a move where Oswald has to boost Mickey up, and the AI wouldn't go to the places I need to go to boost me up because it didn't know what it wanted me to do. It was only like, the AI was only there to like work for like story specific moments to, help you out to actually beat the game. But some of the collectibles seemed almost impossible to do without a second player. Which makes me hope that this does well enough that they are able to remake a 2 as well to maybe fix some of those issues. Either way, though, if I do play 2 again, I would probably want to do like co-op with Zach or something to finally experience what the game feels like with 2 people, because it was kind of designed to be that way. But it wasn't just the co-op that I liked about 2. I felt it fixed the camera that was a problem in the first Epic Mickey game. It added a lot of new worlds that I really enjoyed. A lot of the projector levels are even more creative in 2. Some of the bosses are really neat. And the game also has full voice acting, on top of it being a musical. There's musical numbers throughout the game, and they're pretty fun. But the remake of Epic Mickey 1 still keeps everybody silent. Like, they still make, little sounds as they talk, but there's no, like, actual full voice acting. Which, I mean, the little animated cutscenes in game, they are lip synced in a way where you could put voices in and it would still match up all right. But I'm sure, they consider it to be too much of a hassle, and it would probably feel tacked on if they tried to just push it in. Because while this game is a remake, because it is the original game being rebuilt on a new engine, it is ultimately extremely faithful. It is pretty much the same game with some new moves added and some extras. And that was the thing that I was kind of worried about going into Epic Mickey, this remake, is that Purple Lamp did the SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom remake, like I said, but that definitely had its issues, both in terms of frame rate. When levels would load in, the textures would sometimes take a while to load. Some people, of course, did not like the very bright textures. Like, it almost had almost like a really glowing, shiny look in the remake, which some people felt like did not look as much like the cartoon as the original Battle for Bikini Bottom did. I liked it fine. I just felt like it really did feel like them trying to build this old game on a new engine where it felt a little off. While Cosmic Shake felt like what it was. It was a brand new game built on the materials and the stuff they had already made, and it worked fine. Epic Mickey as a remake works way better because it feels like they put in far more effort to capture the art style of what that original game was. While at the same time, adding flair to make it work for modern audiences, and as well as all the quality of life improvements. This is way more polished than anything Purple Lamp has done previously, and I think it's their best game they've made yet. They put a lot into this, and they deserve props, and I hope they get good sales out of it. I'm just shocked that the game that got a super polished remake is Epic Mickey from 2010.
I agree, especially with a name like Epic Mickey. That is so Wii era. This is not just Mickey, it's Epic Mickey.
And a lot of the advertisements when the game was coming out did actually push the epic part of the title a lot, like infuse the word epic into all the taglines. And to be fair, the scope of the game would be called epic because you are traversing an entire world that is very big. Yeah, we're at the point now where it introduces sketches, which are little things you can draw with your paintbrush that can be used in multiple different ways. The TVs can be used to distract enemies, but they can also be used as power sources to power up electronic devices, which of course becomes invaluable in this world because we're in Tomorrowland, which is all about the city of the future. Though it's really interesting to see Tomorrowland as a level in a land of forgotten things, because Tomorrowland is still at Disney World in Florida. But I think the reason why they chose Tomorrowland is because its vision of the future has become outdated. And that a lot of the versions of Tomorrowland has changed over time to try to keep meeting the idea of what the future could be. And because of that, it started to stagnate because they kind of just fell off, because so much of what is the iconography of what you think of as Disney's Tomorrowland was based on an old retro, 50s, 60s era of what, that Jetsons future could be. Like, for example, that little puzzle right there with that big screen of that, utopia looking city, that's based on the Carousel of Progress. I believe that's what it's based on from Disney World, which was this big ride that would show you this animatronic family that over the decades adapts to the new advancements of the future, and it's supposed to be this exciting thing. But the thing is, the ride has been around so long that obviously its vision of the future has already caught up with reality. Oh, and I did want to mention this projector level is based on the 1950s Pluto cartoon, Plutotopia, which I watched right before recording this video for the first time. It is a extremely bizarre cartoon. So the synopsis is Mickey and Pluto go on a camping trip. Mickey's cabin is literally called Utopia. It has Utopia written on the doormat, and Mickey's like, oh yes, we're in Utopia now. This is a beautiful place. And he sees it as Utopia for Pluto too, because it's a nice forest. And so what it becomes about is that there's a bunch of rules that Mickey has to follow to keep a dog at the park. So Pluto has to be chained outside, and he keeps getting harassed by this cat. So then Pluto goes to sleep, and he has a dream that is in the art style of the level you're seeing right now, where it's like a utopia for dogs, where Pluto is able to harass the cat back, and the cat talks and acts as Pluto's servant. And it leads to an honestly really unsettling series of events where Pluto continues to bite the cat on the tail to harass it, to make it do things for him, until the cat becomes so apologetic that it pulls out a shotgun, presses it against its temple, and Pluto, looking terrified, pushes the shotgun out of the way, before it goes off. And you might be thinking, I'm kidding, that sounds like something you'd see in an old Bugs Bunny cartoon. No, that happens in this cartoon. And you see how that cat is here in the level? You can hit him just like Pluto does in the cartoon to make him do things for you. I don't know why they chose this cartoon. I thought when I originally played Epic Mickey, they chose this cartoon because it's like a vision of the future, but not really. The cartoon is just about Pluto having a dream about a place where dogs are treated as like kings. And so I'm not really sure why they picked this. Maybe Warren Spector just really liked this specific cartoon. I just found it kind of strange and unsettling. We got him. Secret area unlocked.
Yeah, I eventually need to go back and watch a lot of the Mickey Mouse shorts. There's so many of them I haven't seen.
Plutotopia is not on Disney Plus, and I think scenes like the ones I described may be the reason. Disney's probably trying to cover it up like a lot of their old Disney shorts. Off to Tomorrow Square. Now, ultimately, I would say this is as far as I've gotten currently playing the Epic Mickey remake, is beating Tomorrowland. And I wouldn't say that... I say Tomorrowland is probably the least aesthetically appealing visually out of all of the worlds in Epic Mickey from my memory. I'm sure when I get to Adventureland, which is like a big jungle and also is based off of like Peter Pan and the Three Caballeros and that sort of stuff, that's going to be more interesting. And then, of course, you got... oh goodness, what's the final world? That's the Haunted Mansion. The Haunted Mansion, I am really excited to see how it's going to look in the remake. But those two are frankly more interesting to me than the retro future look of Tomorrowland, which isn't to say that it couldn't have been the most aesthetically pleasing level in the game. I just think because of the nature of Epic Mickey's gray, dark aesthetic, it doesn't really stick out as much as it could. Yeah, so these are Beetleworks enemies created by the Mad Doctor. And usually those TVs distract enemies that are not robots, but robots do not care. Gus says they are programmed to hate Mickey. So if you try to put a TV down that has a Steamboat Willie on it, they will destroy it.
Yeah, so when do you want to talk about Power of Illusion?
I guess we can do that now. Zach, you go ahead. Power of Illusion. So yeah, Power of Illusion was, of course, the Epic Mickey game that was on 3DS. That was, I'm going to guess, probably sold the least well out of any of the Epic Mickey games, though 2 didn't sell particularly well either. But Zach owned that game, and he did not have a very high opinion of it.
I liked it at first, but I had a weird thing going on back then where I would like a game at first, because I did this with Sticker Star as well, where I'd like it at first, but the longer I play it, the more I go like, oh, this is just stupid. And Power of Illusion is really fucking annoying and extremely repetitive. I was super excited for it because not only was it another Epic Mickey game, it's called Power of Illusion, which, you know, is named after Castle of Illusion and World of Illusion and things like that. Which I didn't really beat the original Castle of Illusion at the time, but I remember playing a bit of it on emulator and really liking it, so I was excited for Power of Illusion because it was a mixture of Epic Mickey and Castle of Illusion. And it's not a very good game. Like it's not awful. It just gets really old really fast. Mainly because of how side quests work in that game. It's more of a traditional 2D platformer where you go through the level and then you can also find these sketch spots, which that also gets really repetitive. I thought it was kind of cool at first, getting to use the stylus to draw something. I forget what the sketches actually do. I think they're used to solve puzzles or something. But,
the sketches in this game? Well,
No, the
well,
sketch
in
is
Power of Illusion.
In Power of Illusion.
Yeah, in Power of Illusion. Yeah, I think they have a similar use, but you're probably right. It's probably also a puzzle thing.
Yeah, and the biggest problem with Power of Illusion is you have to do side quests for characters. And it's the various Disney characters you would think of. Like, I'm pretty sure you find the Disney princesses and all of that in that game instead of the more obscure Disney stuff. Which, you know,
yeah,
whatever.
like the game's HUD is run like by Scrooge McDuck, right?
I believe so, yeah. But it's just, you have to constantly run side quests, which means you have to constantly go back through the same levels over and over and over, all to find the side quest thing. And then, unlike other games, you can't just choose to leave the level. If you choose to leave the level early, it doesn't count. You have to replay through the entire level in order for the side quest to count. And sometimes you'll beat a level to do the side quest, and then you'll go talk to a character, and they'll ask you to go to that same level to find an entirely different thing, and it's just... you have to do it all over again, and again, and again. And I think side quests are kind of mandatory, but I can't really remember why. Maybe they give you MacGuffins to be able to progress, but it just... I got sick of it. I got sick and fucking tired of playing Epic Mickey Power of Illusion.
Yeah, like you said, they make you replay the levels over and over again with the side quests. I don't remember what they give you either. I assume it's probably, yeah, the MacGuffins to actually continue with the game. That's why they force you to do them. But yeah, my main problem is I just remember the checkpoints in the game being terrible and the actual level design being the level design is surprisingly really cheap and frustrating.
Yeah, that too. I actually can't believe I forgot that. Yeah, the level design is also kind of BS at times.
Like, it's one of those games where a part of my brain keeps going, well, I like these Epic Mickey games. Maybe I should give Power of Illusion one more shot, especially because not only do I just like Epic Mickey, I love the game Castle of Illusion as well as its remake that was released on the Xbox Live Arcade and PSN. So I would be totally happy to see Epic Mickey branch out into being a love letter to old Mickey Mouse video games as well, but yeah, they tried, and it was surprisingly... like, it's fascinating because Power of Illusion is beautiful visually. It has it has nice hand-painted backgrounds, the sprite work is really well animated, and the music is fully orchestrated, but the game sucks. It's so baffling.
Yeah, I actually completely forgot how bullshit the level design could be. Like, it's kind of old school level design where they just throw enemies at you or they'll hide them, and it's like, oh, thanks, game.
Which is crazy because Castle of Illusion and World of Illusion and Land of Illusion, all those games that it's paying homage to are not that cheap. And they're old games.
Castle of Illusion gets a little bit cheap at times, but nowhere near as bad as Power of Illusion does.
Certainly. The clock tower near the end of the original Castle of Illusion is pretty cheap.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Not overly so. Yeah. I was actually surprised because I finally did beat that game recently, and I expected it to be much harder than it ended up being. Although I did use save states, so that did help.
Sure.
But even with that, I was surprised. I expected a bit more roadblocks, but now I beat it in a comfortable amount of time.
I would highly recommend trying the remake, Zach, because it is a bit easier, but for those of you that haven't played the remake, basically they didn't just... it's not like this game where they just, you know, kind of just polished the same game from the Wii era. They just took this Genesis Mickey Mouse game, took the aesthetics of the levels, and then basically made a completely different game that pays homage to the original. And it's excellent. It's honestly just a travesty that it didn't do as well on the digital markets, because their plans were to, like, you know, remake Quack Shot and a lot of just like the great Mickey Mouse games from the Genesis Game Gear era, but it just never happened. But yeah, I definitely would recommend giving the remake a shot sometime, Zach, because I find its difficulty much more fair, as you might expect.
Oh yeah, I do have it downloaded and installed on my PC.
Yeah, the Steam version actually is still runs pretty well on modern computers, at least on mine. Like, I've been able to run it at 120 frames a second. and it actually runs, which baffles me.
I forget. Have we talked about remakes much? I assume we must have talked about remakes a couple of times on Keeping Busy. But I think I'm usually a bit more down when I talk about them. But a lot of remakes recently feels like they're finally making remakes that are aimed for me. Because for the longest time, it felt like they were making remakes for things I didn't really care about. But now I got, like, Epic Mickey remake, Dead Rising remake. There's the remaster of Bat and Kaitos, which allowed me to finally try that game. Brandon, you mentioned that they're going to be, like, remastering the Lunar games. So I'm excited to try those out.
Yeah, I'm not sure how far they're going to actually, touch them up. I imagine they're going to up the resolution and all that. But yeah, they're remastering the Lunar 1 and 2. I don't know if it's going to be the Sega CD or the PlayStation versions or whatever. But yeah, they're putting them in a collection and they're going to be releasing them on all the consoles next year. That's really exciting because I've always wanted to try those games.
Yeah, those are the notoriously expensive fucking PS1 RPGs, right?
Indeed, yes. Because that's the thing, right? Touching into those like niche communities that really want this stuff to happen instead of just remaking The Last of Us again.
Yeah, like I do feel a little bit hypocritical because I would normally complain about all these remakes, and sure, I still do a little bit, but I mean, these ones are actually ones I care about, so they're okay.
Oh, sure, yeah.
No, but
and being done well, too, which is shocking, because you've been playing the Dead Rising remake, and from what you've said, they did a really good job with it.
Yeah. I'm noticing more flaws, but yeah, overall, though, I still really like it. I'm not quite sure if I could call it the definitive Dead Rising experience. Although I never really played too much of the original myself. But I mean, presentation-wise, the game looks great. I do like the new voice actors, but maybe it's just nostalgia. I kind of prefer the original dub, the original cast. But, the new cast does a pretty good job as well. And like I said, I am willing to put it down to bias, because I've heard the original cutscenes for the original Dead Rising so many times, it's just hard for me to hear new voices.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Yeah, I've beaten Dead Rising 1 once, the original version of the game, but I don't have the same... I haven't seen the cutscenes over and over and over again like so many fans have, so I feel like if I played the remake, I'd be a little more willing to accept what they did with the new people, but we'll see whenever I get around to it. Zach bought that, and basically it's going to be probably another one of our classic trades where I'm probably gonna borrow Dead Rising and he's gonna borrow Epic Mickey.
Yeah, more than likely.
So this particular projector level is based on the cartoon from 1933, Mickey's Mechanical Man, where Mickey builds a robot and has it compete in an underground boxing league against an ape. And it's not like, I can't tell if it's I don't think it's an anthropomorphic ape. I just think it's like an actual just ape that is just getting abused by this robot. And like the gimmick is that the robot is sensitive to the sound of car horns. So if you honk your car horn, the ape will get, the robot will get super angry and just destroy everything in its path. So so Minnie is like constantly torturing Mickey by honking the car's horn and then causing the robot to freak out and destroy stuff in the town. And Mickey's like, please don't do that. And Minnie's just laughing at him. But then later, when the whole fight is going on, the robot's getting beat up by the ape. So Mickey's like, oh no, my poor robot. So Minnie rips the horn off of her car, blows it into the boxing ring, and the robot freaks out and just massacres the ape. And then, then the robot just gets so mad it explodes, and that's pretty much where it ends, with Mickey and Minnie making out in the debris of an exploded robot.
Okay.
I don't know. I just It honestly makes me shocked that Disney would greenlight a project like this game based on the really old Mickey Mouse cartoons because they're so bizarre. But the fact that this game exists, it still continues to just wow me. So I did skip over a section of Tomorrowland here. There's a section here where you have to set up this rocket that Oswald wanted you to use to take back to Mickey Mouse's world, but the rocket's missing a bunch of parts, long story short, so now we're going to have to travel to different parts of the world to get certain MacGuffins to power up the rocket. And so now we're going to have to fight a boss in order to get one of the pieces for the rocket. Now, I did want to mention this whole area where you're exploring the rocket is pretty cool because it features a lot of sections where there's a bunch of like different obstacles. There's like tram cars trying to run you down. There's electricity coming out of the walls. And if you save if you save the gremlins in this area, like Gus's friends, they'll give you like choices as to what obstacles to shut down because they only have the power to shut off one. So like, do you want to only avoid the tram cars or do you only want to avoid the electricity? Or, hey, I can give you a bunch of your TV sketches to distract enemies with, or I can shut down one of the generators that keeps replicating enemies over and over again. So there's a lot of choices like that. Epic Mickey, that's part of the reason I love this game, is because it's not just choices, like there's cool choices like that where you can choose how to approach a situation based on what options characters give you. But there's also a decent amount of moral choice as well, where you'll pick up an object that may be personal to somebody, and you can either sell it to someone, or you can give it back to the original person. You may not be given as big a reward, but you'll be in good spirits with them, and many times that'll pay off later on in the game. Like I said, this was creative directed by Warren Spector, who was the guy behind like Deus Ex. So he puts a lot of those choices that not always have like a clear moral direction, just like a choice and a consequence comes out of it, which is so cool to see in a Mickey Mouse game. Another cool thing about Epic Mickey, exploration. You explore the levels thoroughly, and many times you'll find either characters that will make the next section of a level easier for you, or you'll find, like one time I was exploring the Gremlins village, and I found a shortcut projector screen that took me to the boss of the next area, so I didn't even have to do the level.
Yeah, stuff like that is really neat, and it's weird that they chose to put in a Mickey Mouse game, but it is very cool, and it does make me wish that Disney gave them a bit more creative freedom in terms of like allowing Mickey to be a bit eviler.
Yeah, but at this point, I mean, with Epic Mickey 2 already out, I mean, it kind of becomes clear that on some level Mickey was always kind of meant to be a hero, and Oswald was meant to, end up liking him by the end. So in 2, they're like working together. So at the end of the day, while you still can thin stuff and be really awful to people in 2, I don't necessarily know if the dark Mickey path was ever really something that was going to make sense. I understand why Warren wanted it, but I think Disney made that decision for a reason.
Yeah, that's fair. It does always kind of confuse me with a lot of evil choices in games, because it sometimes just feels like you're being an asshole for the sake of being an asshole.
Yes, yeah.
Which is why I usually don't like being an asshole in these kinds of moral choice games. I usually just end up being a good guy.
It just makes the most sense. Which, I mean, to be fair, in this game, it's still, like, being good has good consequences that make me feel good. Like, for example, here, you can choose to either shoot Thinner into Petatronic, or you can shoot Pain into him, and he becomes a good guy and hands over his MacGuffin. And I believe Pete and the rest of the bosses you fight, if you befriend them, they will help you out later on towards the end of the game with sections you would usually have to clear yourself. Because it looks like if you would try to thin everything, it would make some stuff easier, but it would also make certain sections harder because you're not helping anybody. I would like to do a run of the game sometime where you thin everything. I just would worry that it would be like similar to an Undertale genocide run where I would just feel so awful that I wouldn't be able to finish it.
Yeah, same.
Well, like, one of the moral choices, Zach, is that you go into, like, the house of Oswald's wife who's missing, and her locket's in there, and you can pick it up, and there's like and basically you can either take it to Oswald, because, you know, her house has been locked so hard that even Oswald can't get into it. So you can give that to Oswald and he'll really appreciate it. Or you can go to the Mean Street Museum and just sell it to her to give Oswald's wife's locket as an exhibit in the museum. You can be so horrible in this game. And the thing is, not all the NPCs are like super nice people. Some of the NPCs on like Mean Street and even like in Oztown are jerks. They'll just be like, why didn't you blow up that factory? I could have given you a special prize if you did that. It's like, dude. So there was a moment where Oswald basically just tells Mickey, hey, are you good? I want to have you deal with those enemies, and I want to see what you do. And so, of course, I did the good thing. So if you talk to Oswald again, he'll just be like, huh, I really thought you were just going to, like, thin him. And, you know, if you talk to Oswald, he's just like, yeah, I would have just done the same thing. I probably would have did it better, though.
Yeah, I remember really liking Oswald's personality in this game.
Yeah, if you just stand around him, he has so many cool, like, animations. He'll, like, take his ears off and scratch himself with them. He'll do all sorts of, like, references to his old cartoons. And, of course, as I demonstrated at the beginning, if you, like, look at Oswald, then turn around, he'll, like, just start making fun of Mickey behind his back. Yep, we're gonna finish the part here unlocking the next area. Ventureland.
Oh yeah, we are reaching the end. Yeah, if you slept on Epic Mickey and you have the money, we highly recommend giving the remake a shot. Like, sure, it's a bizarre idea for a franchise, but man, it really did deserve more love.
Absolutely.
I could also see why people might have slept on it, especially at the time, with it just being a Wii exclusive, and it has this weird idea of why would I want a darker Mickey Mouse? But it does work.
Yeah, it is what it is. It is really a fascinating part of Disney's history that I hope does well enough that they can make another game in this series, but we'll see how this actually goes. I'd just be happy to see 2 get remade. So, with all that said, yes, by all means, the original is still worth giving a look if you're interested, but the remake truly is a heartfelt made improvement to the original. Please pick it up if you have a chance. Have a good day.